In this lesson, we will learn how to manage a login session using sessions in JSP. So suppose we go to check our email on Gmail. So when we go to Gmail, what would happen? If we were already logged in, if we had logged in earlier, it just opens it up. Otherwise, it asks us to log in. So typically, how do we do it? Using sessions is what we will learn here. So what we are saying here is we are in this JSP called say login form.jsp, and what are we saying here? String user is equal to session.get attribute username. So from the session, the first thing we are checking is we are getting the attribute username. And if user is equal to null, so which means we did not find any user here, then we are putting out a form which is the login form. So this is what we are doing. When are we doing it? When the user is null, which means we did not find any user in the session. And if we found a user, what are we saying? We're saying response.send redirect display messages. So display messages.jsp is a JSP we have created for showing all the messages. So we are just redirecting our response. How do we do it? Response.send redirect. So that's the keyword with the name of the JSP. That is how we are sending it. So here we have been able to do what with login form, that if the user was already logged in, we would show the messages by redirecting the user to display messages.jsp, and if the user was not logged in, we would show this form asking the user to log in. And how did we detect whether the user was logged in or not? We used session.get attribute and we use username. So this is what we are using in this code to figure out about the login. Now, if the user was not logged in, the action here was login form underscore 1.jsp. So what are we doing in login form underscore 1.jsp? We're getting the name and the password. We are checking whether the password is correct. So suppose the password for everybody is to be edufect. So we are checking whether the password is correct or not. And once the password is correct, what are we doing? We are saying session.set attribute username comma name. So we're setting an attribute in the session with the keyword username. So now because the user has logged in, because the password is correct, we are now setting it in the session so that everybody who is accessing the session can now fetch it using the keyword username. And now because the user has been successfully logged in, we are redirecting the response to again display messages.jsp, that is to show the messages. If the password is not correct, what are we doing in else? We are just putting out a link saying that it's an incorrect password, so log in again. Notice in this case we are not setting the attribute because the user has not logged in, and which is why we are not setting the session attribute. What are we doing in display messages.jsp? In display messages.jsp, we are again checking for session.get attribute username. If it is null, means that the user is not logged in, we are saying you're not logged in and you need to go to login form.jsp. That is what we are saying, to login. And if name is not equal to null, what are we doing in else? In else, we are displaying all the messages. So we are doing a welcome to the user and displaying all the messages. And at the end of it, we have added a logout form, which is going to logout.jsp. We have added a logout link, which is going out to logout.jsp. So in display messages, if the user was not logged in, we were sending the user to the login. We are showing the login link. If the user is logged in, we are showing the messages and also adding a logout option because the user is logged in, so the user can log out. What are we doing in logout? In logout, we are doing a very simple thing, which is we are removing that attribute. That attribute username is used by us to ensure that the user is logged in. So what are we doing now? We are removing it from the session, and removing it from the session means that anybody who will now try to get it will not find it, and hence the user is logged out. And once we have done it, we are redirecting it to display messages. Why are we redirecting it to display messages? Because now what will happen? They will check for the attribute, they will not find it, and they will show that you are not logged in. So this is what we are doing in logout. So let us now run it and see what happens. So this is the welcome to the messaging system, the login form. If you have input the incorrect password, so incorrect username or password, login again. If the password was correct, we see all the messages with the logout option. And once we click the logout option, what do we see? You're not logged in, log in again. Okay. So this is how we would do it.